There is now a bounty on their heads, and the sheriff herself is calling it an inside job, suspending 3 members of the department. Take a look at this new surveillance video showing inmates yanking on doors and then later running for an escape, all of them running off the loading dock early this morning in their prison jumpsuits. Sheriff Susan Hudson of New Orleans Parish says 10 inmates, many charged with violent crimes, escaped from the New Orleans Justice Center shortly after midnight last night. Police found one of those men hiding under a car in a hotel parking garage in the nearby French Quarter hours later. Prison officials realized the inmates had broken out not until a routine head count at 8:30 this morning. They say by that point, those men had been out and on the loose for nearly 8 hours. What is making this jailbreak even more controversial, authorities waited 2 hours before sounding the alarm to the public.
They could have been anywhere. We have to make sure that's exactly what happened. We have to pull all the video and find out what happened. That takes a little bit of time. Then we had to first prioritize talking to victims to make sure they were safe and making sure law enforcement could respond to them if they needed something.
Now, these fugitives are charged with a litany of crimes, including murder, burglary, illegal weapons possession, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. Among the escapees is this man, 27-year-old Derek Groves, convicted of killing 4 people. He gunned down 2 of his victims at a Mardi Gras celebration back in 2018. Groves is known for having, quote, alarming familiarity with AK-47s and for boasting about his kill count. And take a look at these photos from inside the jail. The inmates writing on the wall above their escape hole, quote, "Too easy, LOL." They dug a hole in that wall behind a toilet and tunneled their way out to freedom after shaking their cell doors off their tracks. There were at least 4 supervisors and 36 other staff members on duty at the jail last night. Joining me now for more on all of this is former FBI Special Agent and founder of Sierra One Consulting, Rob D'Amico, and Joe Cardinale, retired New York Police Lieutenant Commander. I got to start with you, Rob. We have never seen 10 inmates escape en masse, almost all accused of violent crimes. This is a catastrophic failure in this jail. Rob, can you hear me? All right, Joe, you take this one. We'll get back to Rob.
Sorry.
Is Rob there? If not, I'll jump on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe.
So this is very, very unusual, to have that many inmates. But I have to tell you, the fact that they are on the loose for that amount of time is more alarming than anything else. And this is something where you really have to look. I don't know what the inmate to officer ratio is in that prison, but they should never have gotten as far as they did.
Well, we know, Joe, we know that there were 1,400 inmates in the jail last night, and that there were 36 officers on duty, along with 4 supervisors. How does that sound to you?
It's kind of low, And we're speaking about some of the worst here. I mean, let's go back to 2023 in Chester County, Pennsylvania, when Danielle Cavalcante escaped. It took 14 days to get one man back. And the whole county was on alert there, and they had a big manhunt for him. But 14 days. Now you have one, I believe it's 9 now out of the 10 because they got 1. So you have 9. So it's going to be tracking 9 individuals who have a very good head start on their escape.
Rob, do we have you back? I think we do.
Yes.
We can see from the photos of the wall where the hole that they somehow broke through. It's a wall behind the sink and the toilet that are normally in the jail. The metal bars above the hole are missing. Pipes were removed. Creating a hole like this obviously takes... How did they do all this with no one noticing?
Well, I think some people did notice, and that's why there's suspension, and that's why the sheriff actually talked about insider job. But what's really odd is with technology nowadays, you could have easily had AI incorporated to their camera system to detect movement when there shouldn't have been, and it could sound the alarm. And that's where people and manpower and technology have to be looked at and say, well, you can put simple AI on the back end of the cameras, and no one's supposed to be moving around, and you have 10 people moving, and it sets alarm off, even if the people don't recognize it. So there's fundamentally a lot of problems with this prison, but also the basically not staying up with technology to understand what your vulnerabilities are is almost criminal.
Joe, as we look at that wall again, they wrote too easy, LOL. They misspelled the word too, just writing T-O, taunting jail guards. They also wrote we innocent. It's unbelievable they took time to leave this message.
Well, that's how much time they had, and that's how cocky they were with this. And that's why you have to go along with the theory that there was inside help, and there was some, intricate inside help here. So I just think that this is something that is way too dangerous to ever occur again. But right now, the focus is on getting these individuals back into custody without anything else happening. And like you identified a couple of them, these are the worst of the worst. Now, these jails are antiquated. We have a couple of, the same cell doors that are like this in some of the jails, in New York. But the thing is, there are checkpoints, and I'll use Suffolk County as an example. There are checkpoints where you might get past one checkpoint, but to get to the next one, there's an officer there with a key that you cannot get through that door without that officer unlocking that door. So you're really confined to an area. Yeah. The fact that these individuals were able to break through that wall and get to an outside area and then get over a wall with Constantine wire on top, and they're laughing about it. They had this planned well in advance, and don't be surprised if there were cars waiting for them on the other side of that interstate.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable. Rob, we do know the sheriff just said that she had been, in fact, this week asking for more funds for this jail. She said they, in fact, were understaffed. Still, you have to ask the question, not only did no cameras, nobody was looking at cameras to see this, as you point out, no AI to detect movement, but how did it go 8.5 hours before somebody did a head count of any kind or look into these cells and notice these men were missing?
That was my next question. When I started looking at the timeline, I said, okay, they escaped at midnight and they weren't notified. They didn't figure it out until 8:30 is your first head count, right? Where you don't have. So, and then they delayed notifying the public, which is actually, in this case, very important because you have violent, dangerous fugitives who will probably do anything to stay out of jail now actually in the public area. So I think the excuse of, oh, we had to do all these other things to check with locals, and I think that was bad because you have to tell the public these people are out and they are extremely dangerous, that if you see anything, or if you come across them, to actually just call 911 right away. So I think there's some big mistakes that happen, even though they owned up to a few. Yeah, well, we just saw video. The inmates, after they were managed to jump off the loading dock, they managed to scale the jail wall. And then here you see them running across an interstate that's near the jail. In one of these frames of video, you see a car driving past. These men are still in prison jumpsuits. It's unbelievable nobody called 911 to say, I just saw a bunch of inmates running across the interstate. You haven't been down to New Orleans lately. One of my child goes to school down there, and I was very surprised at some of the stuff that was happening in New Orleans. But again, I think it's a cultural thing down there that people just kind of, it's not me, it's not my problem, so to speak. Because if I saw someone in an orange jumpsuit, again, I'm law enforcement, first thing you'd be on the phone. I think if it was in the Midwest or somewhere else, you probably would have had that interaction with the public calling. But down there, it's a bit different. Joe, what do police do now to try and find these men? They found one of them hiding under a car in the French Quarter. He sure didn't go far. The rest of them, we have no idea. They just, like in the last, I think about 15 minutes ago, they held another news conference. They're now offering a reward of $2,000 per man for any information leading to where they are. Will this help? I think these inmates will offer them a lot more than that to help them get away with this. I really think you have to revamp this whole system right now. And as Rob said, I don't know what what that jail system, who they compromise. Who is compromised in there? Who are the people that are dealing with it? But this is not just in New Orleans. We have, correctional facilities across the United States that are undermanned, and they have to be staffed to a level that's compatible with the inmate to officer ratio. And the fact that they let 2 hours go by, I'm not accepting that from the sheriffs. He said, well, we had to wait and see if they were inside. No, they're gone. And even if they were found inside, it's better to say, well, we found them inside than to let those 2 hours go by. Those 2 hours, that's an eternity for an escaped prisoner. Yeah, we really haven't gotten a satisfactory explanation after now 2 news conferences from the sheriff, although
Joe, it is interesting. She did say 3 employees have already been suspended. We don't know who they are or what their jobs were, but there's a clear indication. She said, we're investigating if this is one of our own. They clearly believe people in the jail were helping them.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that they already identified 3, there's a lot more that could be involved, that probably are involved. But the thing is, you have to worry about who you're hiring these days. And that's why I'm saying with this shortage in policing across the United States, I think they're hiring people much too quickly. They're not vetting them properly. And this is what happens when you don't staff the prisons and you don't pay the guards, the prison guards and the correction officers, you don't pay them what they should be paid to make it a job worth losing and to make it a job that they take very serious.
And a job where they will be immune to bribes that I'm sure they get all the time from inmates and their friends and family on the outside to help these inmates escape. Joe Cardinale, Rob D'Amico, thank you so much for weighing in on this breaking news story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe